There is one major change to leveling and economy in set 7. Today we are going to go over all of the basics from standard leveling, 1 cost reroll, 2 cost reroll, and 3 cost reroll, along with how to use certain augments, such as wise spending, march of progress, cruel pact, among others. Knowing how to use these is crucial in order to take advantage of knowing when to pick each augment, which augments are good for standard, which ones are good for rerolling, and essentially a lot of players don't know the basics of just leveling and econing, and that is costing them a lot of LP. After you master the basics, of course you can go on to more advanced things, and pretty much once you memorize this, you can finally focus your attention on everything else that's happening in the game, and that's how you're going to get that much better. We're also going to go over real game examples of how each one of these leveling patterns can play out. So first things first, on standard leveling, the first major decision point is going to be for level 4. Typically, you're going to do that on stage 2-1. And the reason behind that is because you are going to be going for more of the higher cost units, or you are going to be playing for a win streak. So that's why most people level up on 2-1. If you're going for a lose streak, leveling at 2-3 is generally the accepted time. The only time you level up at level 4 at stage 2-2 is if you need to put a specific synergy in, or if you thought you were lose streaking at first, and then all of a sudden you see your next shops, and then you're like, okay, never mind, I'm going to go for a win streak. That'd be really the only time you would level up at stage 2-2 for level 4. For level 5, the most common stage to level up is on stage 2-5, and you could always check what stage it is at this little indicator at the top of each game. This is the stage right after the carousel, so you could also do something that's called pre-leveling, such as leveling up so you are 8 out of 10 XP before the carousel, and then after the round starts, you'll be at level 5 already. And you typically do this if you have 4 extra gold that doesn't affect your interest thresholds. The next most common time to hit level 5 is on stage 3-1. This is typically only when you're going for a super lose streak. Probably 90% of the games where I play standard leveling, I'm probably going to be up at 2-5. The other situations are at stage 2-3 and 2-7. You really only do it on 2-3 if you need to guarantee a win streak, or if you have stacking synergy such as trainer that you really want to fit in, but you want to keep the rest of your board intact as well. That'd be really the only time you do it there. At 2-7, sometimes you need to level up to beat Krugs, because if you have 4 1-star units, sometimes they don't beat Krugs. So you need to level up to level 5 in order to not lose the game right there. Now for level 6, this is where things get a little tricky. So typically for levels 6, 7, and 8, you always want to level up if you can keep at least 30 gold still in the bank, and this happens pretty much all the time. However, there's still other times where you'd level up below this threshold, and we'll get into that right now. So for level 6, 90% of the time, it's going to be on stage 3-2 where you go up, and sometimes you roll here. You don't always have to roll, but if you are low HP, if you have like 4 pairs on your bench, pair meaning you have like 2 of a kind of a unit and you just need 1 more to 2-star it, sometimes you want to roll on stage 3-2. A lot of people are very hesitant in doing it because they're like, oh, I want to do a fast 7 or fast 8, get all the forecasts. No, you don't need to do that all the time. Sometimes you want to roll on stage 3-2, but only for those 2 specific reasons we said before, which is either having a lot of pairs or if you're very low health. The amount you roll will really depend on what you're trying to do. If you're really trying to win streak or something like that, or you really need to 2-star your board in order to not lose, sometimes you end up rolling like 30 plus gold on this stage. But most of the time, you really only need to roll 10 to 20 gold in order to hit some upgrades. And then after that, you hit 1 or 2 of them, you can just stop right there and just go back to normal TFT. The other times you'd level up to level 6 is on stage 3-5, where if you're lose streaking a lot, sometimes you just naturally level up at that stage. Or conversely, if you're super win streaking, you'll want to level up to stage 3-1 in order to get a stronger board. We can see in this example over here, we are 100 health, we're on a hot streak, we have 5 wins in a row, and you want to level up and typically do it at the last second in order to put an extra unit in. In this case, we dropped in an extra Olaf to give ourselves scale score. Not the biggest of upgrades, but sometimes doing this can really help keep that win streak going and really snowball the game out of control because you get the bonus win streak gold. Keep in mind, whenever you're playing for a win streak, you really want to make as many items as you can in order to, again, ensure that you actually get the win streak off and continue on with your game. Let's talk about level 7 next. Typically, you're going to be leveling up at either 4-1 or 4-2. So this is where the change I talked about before at the beginning of the video comes in. Augments come out on stage 2-1, 3-2, and 4-2. So sometimes you don't want to level up until after you see your augment, because after you see your augment, you know what to roll for, and you can play around the augment that way. However, sometimes you want to level up on 4-1 and roll, because the units on your board affect what type of augments you will see. So if you want to go for a specific trait synergy, you want to make sure that trait is actually on your board before 4-2 or 3-2 happen. Typically in previous sets, we did not level up at 4-2. We also did not level up to level 8 at 5-2 in a lot of cases. Mainly, they were typically done on 4-1 or 5-1, and that is one of the bigger changes this set. And again, it's all because of the augments, and you also get like what's called a clean level up on the second round of every stage, because that's when the XP thresholds just hit cleanly, so you don't have to spend an extra 2 gold into a level up. Now, the one exception for level 7 is sometimes you level up at stage 3-5, and this is where the 30 plus gold rule comes in. If you can level up and have at least 30 gold in the bank, you pretty much 99% of the time, you always do it. The reason why is because 30 gold allows you to get to 40 gold, which allows you to get to 50 gold really quickly, and typically the same cannot be said for 10 or 20 gold. When you're at the lower gold thresholds, you can't get up to the next tier in the next turn a lot of the times unless you are on like a massive win streak or if it's right before a carousel round. At 30 and 40 gold, you can make it to the next threshold pretty reliably. So as you can see in the same game we had before, we are level 6 right now with 8 out of 36 XP, and we have 68 gold. We bought the Shiou, but we have enough to level up and keep 32 gold. So again, the 30 gold rule applying right here. Another bonus of doing this level up early is that you also get increased shop odds for a couple more rounds than had you waited until stage 4-1 or 4-2. For rolling patterns, you're going to want to follow the same rules as rolling on level 6, but be a little more aggressive with the rolling. Again, you really want to solidify your board on level 7 because this is typically where you get a lot of the 2-star 3-cost units, or sometimes when you're lucky, you get a 2-star 4-cost unit. But sometimes you really need a specific 1 copy of a 4-cost unit, and you're typically going to find that on level 7. So you do want to do a bit of rolling here because during stage 4, that's when a lot of player damage starts to pick up. And in most cases, you do not want to be losing. Like if you lose 4 or 5 rounds during stage 4, you're going to probably be out of the game really soon. If you're low health, such as like 40 or below, that's when you, again, definitely want to be rolling a ton because you really just can't bleed out during this stage if you're that low health. So here in this example, we are going to level up to level 7 on stage 4-1, and we're going to roll a bit. We have 40 gold to start with, and we are looking for upgrades. As you guys see here, we're at 55 health. Our board is pretty much mostly 1-starred units, and we want to get some upgrades, so we're going to roll down as much as we can. Obviously, you want to do it a little faster than what I'm doing right now. I'm a bit of a boomer, but you get some 2-stars, drop them in, try to find some random synergies that work, and pretty much transition your board that way. This wasn't the cleanest example, but sometimes you don't always hit what you want, and you just have to make do with what you get. Probably in this situation, I wanted to roll around like 15 more gold than I did in this particular spot. Now let's move on to level 8. This is done in a similar fashion to level 7, the only difference being it is now bumped up a stage. So you want to generally reach level 8 at 5-1 or 5-2. Sometimes you could do it at 4-5 if you're doing the fast 8 strategy. That's if you like pretty much never rolled throughout the entire game and only put your gold into experience. You typically fast 8 on 4-5. Sometimes if you're really getting a ton of gold, you could even fast 8 on 4-2. As we can see here in this game, we saw our augment, we picked it, and then we leveled up to level 8 and pretty much just chilled after that. Usually right as you hit level 8, you want to roll unless you're trying to do a fast 9. But I'd say in like 70% of the cases, you want to roll at least 30 gold, sometimes even more than that, and get up to like pretty much all your gold. Sometimes you even roll like 50 gold at that point in the game. The main things you're looking for on level 8 are 2-star 4-cost units or a 1-star legendary unit. Let's take a look at this different game here where we reached level 8 at 5-1. We had 70 gold, and we're going to be rolling down a ton, and we are going to be pretty much getting some upgraded units and just trying to look for anything to improve our board because we're at 46 life right now, and sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get legendary 2-stars. Obviously, we had a lot more gold than what people typically have at this point in the game. Normally, when you level up to level 8, you maybe have like 40 gold to play with or 30 gold to play with. This time around, we had 70 plus gold to play with, so it is going to be different from each and every game. But we picked up a damage 2-star carry and we picked up a tank 2-star, so we are pretty chillin' after that. Now for level 9, keep in mind you need to kind of get a little lucky in order to hit level 9. The reason behind that is because it just costs a lot of gold to get there. You really only do this if you are fast 9ing, or if you are probably already top 4 already and then you can afford to save gold in extra rounds. and can go for level 9 in like stage 6 or something like that. But typically, stage 6, 1, 5, 5, those are typically the rounds where people level up to level 9. If you're doing like a super fast level 9, you could do it on 5, 1 or 5, 2. And then if you spent most of your gold on level 8, like you leveled up to level 8, rolled to 0 earlier, typically you can build back up enough econ to hit level 9 at around stage 6, 2 or 6, 5, assuming you did not have to roll anymore. That's standard leveling. This is typically when you go for 4 and 5 cost carries. Now let's move on to the rerolls. So starting with 1 cost reroll, you generally do not want to level up to level 4 until stage 2, 3. So do not press the level up button, and you just naturally level up at stage 2, 3. The key about level 4 is that sometimes on stage 3, 1, that's around right before you hit level 5, you can do what's called a hyper roll. That's when you roll all the way down until you hit your desired unit. So in this case, we're going for set reroll. We're just going to roll down until we hit set 3. So for hyper rolling at stage 3, 1, you typically get around 1 unit per 10 gold. So you generally want at least 4 or 5 of that particular unit before you start rolling. And this rule really only applies to level 4, but that's the approximate that I've been told by some people who did the math. And it's a good general guide to figure out how much you need to roll for that 3 cost unit whenever you're hyper rolling. And sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. It's a little risky, but sometimes in certain metas, you can kind of play this style. If not, you do what's called a slow roll. That's when you go up to level 5 in the next stage at stage 3, 2, and then you roll down to 50 gold every single turn. The most important thing during this stage, especially since you're going for 1 cost units, is you need to figure out when to all in and roll down all your gold down to 0 until you hit the 3-star units that you want. Typically, you want to start thinking about this when you have 6 or more copies of your desired unit, or when you're teetering below 40 health. I'd say in general, if I have 7 or 8 copies, that's typically when I would all in, but sometimes you have to consider it at 6 copies. After you hit all your 3-star units, you're going to want to level up to level 6 during stage 3 or stage 4. Typically, it happens in stage 4 because you don't hit the 3-star until that time. But if you hit it earlier, level up to level 6 as soon as possible. And then after that, depending on your composition, you want to level up to 7 and 8 and pretty much power level on forward to fit in more synergies. This is going to be dependent on your comp, so do look out for the guides on bunnymuffins.lol/meta in order to know which comps really shine and can stay at level 6 and which comps really need to power level all the way up to level 8 or 9. Now let's go into 2 cost reroll. It follows a similar pattern to 1 cost reroll. You typically do not want to level up to level 4 until stage 2, 3. The reason behind that is because spending 4 gold into leveling at stage 2, 1 really slows down your economy a lot. So you typically want to do what's called a lose streak start and lose most of the rounds during stage 2. This will allow you to get a lot more gold and reliably stabilize during level 6. So for level 5, reach that on 3, 1. Sometimes you could do it on 2, 5. Sometimes you get lucky, you hit a 2 cost 2-star unit really early, and then you could kind of maybe play for a win streak during stage 2, but that doesn't happen. So generally, you're going to want to be level 5 during stage 3, 1. After that, for level 6, you want to do that typically at either 3, 2 or 3, 5. So if you built your economy properly, stage 3, 2 is the time to do that. If you did not, say you got unlucky and went like win, lose, win, lose, win, lose in the previous stage, sometimes you have to do it at stage 3, 5. It's not ideal, but sometimes, you know, life just is like that. What you want to do at level 6 is do a slow roll, similar to the 1 cost reroll, where you just roll down to 50 gold every single turn and clicking all the units that you like to buy, depending on your composition. And you just continue on doing that and then find a time to all in, similar to the pattern as before. If you have 6 or more of your desired unit, you probably want to start thinking about all-inning because you just need 3 more to get the 3-star, and hopefully that should save you a lot of health. Always balance your health with the strength of your board. Now, moving on to level 7, 8, and 9. Again, this is going to be dependent on your comp. Sometimes you want to reroll again at level 7 for a 3-cost unit. Sometimes you need to power level all the way up to 8 to fit in more synergies. It's going to be dependent on the comp, so check out the guides on my website for whatever specific comp that you're playing. Now onto 3 cost reroll. So 3 cost reroll actually shares a mix between standard leveling and the reroll comps. So level 1, 2, 3 is always the same, and then level 4, you want to hit level 4 at stage 2, 1 because you're just trying to preserve your life total. 3 cost reroll is really risky to do because a lot of games you don't have enough time to actually reroll for your 3 cost 3-star. So sometimes you just have to stick at 3 cost 2-star, and if you get that too late, you're going to be in trouble. That's the risk. This is probably like the riskiest one because, again, higher the risk, higher the reward. But pretty much play stage 2 very similar to the standard leveling pattern. Level 5 is going to be the same thing. And then once you hit level 6, this is where you're going to have to think a bit. So you know how when we did standard leveling, at level 6 on stage 3-2, we sometimes rolled a bit, especially if we had a lot of pairs. For 3 cost reroll, you want to have that same thought process, but be a little more aggressive. So if before when you're doing standard leveling, you're like on the borderline between rolling and not rolling, if you're doing 3 cost reroll, you'll probably want to lean towards more rolling. The reason behind this is because you're going to fall behind in board strength really soon, because you're going to be slow rolling at level 7. So what you want to do during stage 3 is blow past everyone with a 3 cost 2-star and stabilize your board in order to buy yourself more time at level 7 to slow roll. I know sometimes it hurts a bit to roll at level 6, but sometimes, especially if you have a lot of pairs and good items for your carry, you might want to roll a little bit at this level. Now onto level 7, you hit this during stage 4-1. You typically don't level up at 3-5 or 4-2 because, again, you don't have enough gold to level up at 3-5, and on 4-2 that might be a little too late for your team. So you want to level up to level 7 at 4-1, and then if you need to roll to get a 2-star 3-cost unit, you probably should roll at least 10 gold. If not, you can start slow rolling and roll down to 50 every turn, and then find a good time to all in later on. Level 8, level 9, you're only really going for those after you hit your 3-star unit, but there are some cases where level 8 can be reached earlier. So let's take a look at this game here. We have a 2-star Olaf and 2-star Diana, and those are really the 2 units we are gunning for. You may have noticed I'm at 65 gold and I'm not rolling down yet. The reason why I'm doing this is because I don't want to commit to the reroll yet. If you look at my bench, I have no extra copies of Olaf, so I might not consider slow rolling even though that was my intention from the beginning. If you don't get copies of units, you really don't want to force that composition because you're pretty much just asking for trouble at that point in time. If I did have like 1 or 2 extra Olafs on my bench, you bet your dollar that I'm going to be rolling down to 50 every single turn. However, in this case, I'm patient. I'm going to be waiting. And you'll see that even in the next round, I have 89 gold because I don't want to commit to the reroll yet. So instead, what I do, since I don't hit any additional Olafs in my natural shops, I'm going to go ahead and level up to level 8 instead and maybe try to reroll for him during that time. The odds for 3-cost units at level 7 and 8 are the same. So that is one of the advantages of 3-cost reroll. So let's look at the stage 2 situation. You may have noticed we have 2 copies of Olaf and 2 copies of Shen. We could decide to roll here because this is normally a borderline situation in standard leveling. In this case, I opt to roll down around 10 gold, and we're lucky enough to hit both the Olaf and the Shen. I'm at 78 life. It's not the lowest, but it's also not the highest. If I was at 42 life, like the guy in last place, I definitely would be rolling down to 10 gold. But I think in this case, if you roll like 10 or even 15 gold, it's generally like a safe bet if you have a couple of pairs. I would have preferred to have 1 more pair, but you know, life isn't like that all the time. Now that we've gone over how to do standard leveling and all of the rerolls, I want to talk a little bit about some of the augments. Whenever you're doing 3-cost reroll, Wise Spending and March of Progress and Cruel Pact are all really good for this. The reason why is because Wise Spending, you're going to be rolling a lot at level 7 and 8, and that is the perfect time to get 3-cost units. Same with March of Progress, you get to level 7 relatively quickly, and then after that, you stay level 7 and level 8 pretty much for the rest of the game. So again, that is like a natural born environment for 3-cost reroll. Cruel Pact, you start the game. What I like to do is actually spend up to right before the threshold of hitting level 7 on stage 2-1. And so you'll be level 6 and then you'll hit level 7 the next turn. And the reason behind that is because you're pretty much always going to win that first round when you're level 6 against all the level 4 and level 3 people. So that's typically a safe thing to do. But if you're feeling kind of weak, you could sometimes invest that extra 4 life into leveling up to level 7. But again, you're going to be level 7 pretty much the whole game, so it is a natural born environment for 3-cost reroll. Another thing I want to talk about is think fast. Whenever you're playing reroll, you want to always be prepared for think fast to show up on your screen whenever an augment comes up, because this is the bread and butter for your comp, and you want to be ready because you cannot waste any time whenever you get that augment. Now for AFK, we took AFK, we lost a couple of rounds there, but we are in stage 2-5, we have 40 gold, and from here, you want to decide what you want to do. I like to keep loose streaking for the rest of stage 2, and then after that, I pivot into either the standard leveling pattern or into a reroll comp, depending on what my units look like. So in this case, I actually sold most of my units to reach up to 50 gold and to keep the loose streak going on. And then after that, you just play normal TFT, except one thing to keep in mind, remember how a lot of times I said roll if you are low health. Whenever you take AFK, you're always going to be lower end on the health spectrum, so you want to be rolling a little more aggressively than you would otherwise. And again, it's not that big of an issue because you have more gold now because you got the AFK buff. It gives you 20 gold after AFKing for 3 rounds, and you have the lose streak bonus going. So don't feel bad even if you roll like a ton of gold on level 6. Now I want to talk about Hustler. Hustler's a weird one. You generally use it to power level all the way up to level 7 as fast as possible, and then after that you want to actually not use the augment anymore, go up to 50 gold, and then play standard after that. A lot of people fall into the trap of always being under 20 gold, and it actually makes it really hard to reach level 8 if you do that. I know there are some games where you don't need to reach level 8, but there are a lot where you actually do. Always play towards whatever condition you're kind of going for there. Next we have late game specialists. Whenever you do this, you obviously want to go for a fast 9, so whatever the earliest time you could do that is going to be ideal, and then right after you hit that, you definitely want to roll down as much gold as possible, pretty much the 40 that you get plus whatever change you have left over, because if you ever do any sort of fast 9 strategy, it's really risky because you go a lot of rounds without rolling, and sometimes you could get really punished and die out before you even hit your upgrades. Generally, I always like to keep 2 lives in case some nonsense happens in one of the fights, so you never want to be able to get knocked out in 1 round if you can help it. So whenever you can approximately live for 2 more rounds, that's when you are going to want to be rolling a little more aggressively than normal. The very last augment choice I want to go over is Cluttered Mind and Clear Mind. So whenever you take Cluttered Mind, you don't want to actually force Cluttered Mind right away. If you get this in the beginning, you kind of want to wait like 1 or 2 rounds before you actually fill up your bench and collect the 10 interest in the first 1 or 2 rounds. The reason why you want to do this is because it's really difficult to actually fill up your bench, and you actually get a lot less gold because you don't collect interest gold early on. After that, follow whatever leveling pattern you were going for before. Typically, whenever you take these, it's probably standard leveling or 3 cost reroll. This principle works very similar to Clear Mind, where you're typically going for standard leveling or 3 cost reroll, because if you're ever doing 1 or 2 cost reroll, like you're gonna have stuff on your bench and it's not gonna make a lot of sense, but you want to aim towards like fast 7 or fast 8s with these strategies. I think that covers all of the augments. I'll have the full guide up on my website at bunnymuffins.lol. I believe there's like a button on the top that goes directly to the leveling guide. But if this guide helped you in any way, I really hope you guys subscribe down below. And also make sure to check the website every Friday for tier list updates for all the best comps for whatever set it is. I've been pretty much updating that every single Friday. From what I hear, a lot of people find it helpful, so hopefully the same goes for you. But apart from that, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments section below, and I will see you all later.